Hey, it's Sam, and I'm recording this video on the new moon in Capricorn, the new moon cycle that's starting January 29th, 2025. You can see the moon is here, the sun and moon are here in Capricorn. This is a new moon cycle, as it says, sound of sacred silence. We've got the S, the sibilance happening, a return to stillness, simplicity, and truth. A new cycle, moon in Capricorn, and this is a great time to be diving deep into your sense of stillness, silence, inner peace. If you haven't gotten this before, I actually have a free Saturn ebook that you can download. All you need to do is go to a video link there, Shani, bringer of truth and peace, and you will get this. It has embedded videos discussing Saturn, also the sign of Capricorn, the sign of Aquarius, that Saturn rules Aquarius in depth, Capricorn in depth. There's a link here to follow. But this particular new moon is happening on January 29th, and it's in the Nakshatra of Shravana, which is also literally means listening or hearing. So this is why that whole theme of sacred silence and that sound of sacred silence is so important. Shravana is the one nakshatra that's completely in Capricorn. For example, Uttara Ashara is the first nakshatra, then you have Shravana, then you have Dhanishta. But Shravana is the one that's all the way in the middle. And Shravana literally means listening or hearing. And it's where we listen to the truth, where the stillness required for sacred listening is also being cultivated. For example, we can say a lot of words, but can we really hear the meaning behind the words? And in order to hear the meaning behind the words, it requires that we have deeper stillness and solitude and peace, right? And that doesn't come just overnight. We have to cultivate that. We have to cultivate a relationship with that silent, still being within. When our whole life is based on the external world and what we get from the world through the senses, other people, our desires, then we lose our soul, our soul, our spirit in the objects of our affection, so to speak, which is the Venus principle. Eventually we have to let go of the Venus principle, and instead of the meaning of our life being how happy can I be, the meaning of our life is who am I beyond this worldly happiness. And that's the domain of Saturn. And it sometimes feels punishing, but ultimately we realize that it's liberating. And just like when we were a child, we felt like we were being punished because we weren't allowed to eat candy all the time. But eventually we stopped eating candy because we realized the consequences, that if we eat candy all the time, we're going to get sick. So then we had to experience it. We had to go through that. Same is true really with Saturn and that those, hard realities, harsh realities. They're really not harsh. They're only harsh to the parts of us that are immature and that are afraid of growing up and being mature. But there's no reason to do that. And things like stillness and silence, simplicity are easy to cultivate once we have a technique and a method. You see, the sign of Capricorn comes after Sagittarius. Sagittarius is where we find a belief, something to believe that takes us past just our mundane mind, right? Sagittarius comes after Scorpio, where we're aware of how fragile we are, how fragile life is. Then we need to find an answer. There's this thing. I have this belief. Okay, now I believe in yoga or, Christ or, Krishna. Okay, but that's not enough. I believe it, but now there's still all these harsh realities. But I'm still gonna die. Even though I believe all this stuff, I'm still suffering. There's still pain and anguish. What do I do about that? Well, there really isn't pain and anguish. We're not putting the teachings into practice, right? This is why we can have all these beliefs about things, but then when it comes time to put those beliefs into practice and benefit from our beliefs, we falter because we haven't put them into practice. Great spiritual teachings are realized through our practice and practicing the yoga and the thing and the breath and the mantra. But it takes effort. It takes a reckoning with our fears. And it's that fear of not being in control, of not knowing what's going to happen next, and of growing up. We're actually afraid of moving beyond our simplistic desires. We can look at it like this even. Venus is that attachment to other people. Saturn is where we don't need other people. How many people are sad and lonely in solitude? If you're just sad and lonely when you're alone, then you don't know yourself. And the more you know yourself, you don't need someone else or something else to make you feel good. You feel fullness. And that fullness is akin to the stillness, simplicity, and truth, and the sacred silence. Because that's your true nature. Your true nature is the silence. And you're full of it. There's fullness and liberation and freedom in that. But you have to withdraw the attention from the surface and return the attention inward. And by the way, again, these things are talked about in great depth in this ebook, in this Saturn ebook. There's also there's an interactive version of the ebook too. When you go here to register, again, it's free. You just click that link, and there's the interactive ebook that has the videos linked, and also ones that have the videos embedded. It's totally free, and you'll learn all about the evolutionary process of Saturn, which is the bringer of all that stillness, introspection, and peace. If it's hard for you to imagine that, or it feels like that's harsh, understanding this deeper level of Saturn and how we need to evolve our clinging to form and life, and understanding that in a way that's not harsh or scary is important. And you see, I actually talked about the exaltation and debilitation points, why they're in Aries and Libra, the signs that Saturn rule, and how those signs operate through Saturn energy. So again, it's free. You can check that out. The other thing is I am doing a free class, or I'm sorry, it's not a free class. It's for my members at the member site. I'm going to be doing the member forecast on January 29th, on the 28th rather, at 12 p.m. noon on the new moon in Capricorn for all 12 signs. So again, the new moon in Capricorn for all 12 signs, it's going to affect you differently than it affects others, because the sign of Capricorn, maybe for you, falls from the 10th house, let's say. If you have an Aries ascendant. If you have a Cancer ascendant, it's your 7th house. If you have Scorpio ascendant, Capricorn is your 3rd house. All of these things are different. So again, my members get the daily forecast that I just recorded through the week ahead. They also get the Vedic Panchanga forecast. There's also free classes that you can get at these different levels. Most people have the Oracle $29.99, where you get all the classes, all the forecasts, but the Visionary gets you the Vedic forecast. Examiner $9.99 gets you this forecast here and the weekly forecast. But check that out. It's a great way to stay engaged with the daily astrology. But again, this is really a time And these cycles, again, you have to understand this is the beginning of a cycle. It says new cycle, moon in Capricorn. And I put cycle because people think, oh, the new moon, it's that day, that day. That day is the beginning of a cycle, right? Just like, January 1st isn't just a day, it's the beginning of a new year, right? When the sun and moon come together at that moment, it's the beginning of a 30-day cycle. And in fact, it's the end of the previous 30-day cycle. So far this year, in January, we've mostly been in the Sagittarius cycle because the new moon happened in Sagittarius on December 31st last year. So this whole year so far, we've been in the Sagittarius cycle. New moon, the sun and moon came together in Sagittarius. Now they're going all the way around. And then the sun moved in Capricorn, and then the moon came around, and now it's this one. Now it's this cycle. So again, we're moving from the Sagittarius cycle to the Capricorn cycle. And by the way, again, those who track and who get these forecasts, and I have people who are members for a long time, you could see it's this new moon in Capricorn for all 12 signs here. But if you look a month ago, you see all the forecasts, January 2025. Here's the new moon in Sagittarius that was done a month ago, right? But again, you can see all the videos that you get in a month at the Oracle level. You get all of these updates. These are all weekly forecasts, Vedic forecasts. But the point is also that once you start tracking this, it's not just that it was the Sagittarius, but you see how Sagittarius leads to Capricorn, but also this house lesson leads to the next one. So for example, if you're Virgo, this whole year you've been in a 4th house cycle. Sagittarius is the 4th house. You're about to start a 5th house cycle. Like for me, I'm Gemini, so the new moon started in my 7th house of Sagittarius. That was the new moon in Sagittarius. This one was my 7th house for all Geminis, okay? So I go through the whole 7th house cycle this year. Well, this one is now going to be my 8th house. So one of the things about tracking this all the time is you also learn how these houses build on each other. The 8th house comes after the 7th house, just like Capricorn comes after Sagittarius, like I just explained. Sagittarius is all that inspiration and purpose and that, those beliefs, but we have to put those beliefs into practice with Capricorn. We need to apply them, take them seriously, make a commitment, focus on them, not just be inspired, but we need to focus, concentrate, and be willing to turn inward. Because again, Sagittarius, we go outward and again, find this thing that inspires me, this, belief system, this religion, these teachings, and we can have this illusion that, okay, now I get it, now I understand, now I've really accomplished something. And we have something to believe that gives us a good belief system and understanding, but we're still in the body here on earth, and those great teachings have great practices that you need to do, particularly the Eastern methods and teachings. It's not just religion, it's practice. And nothing much changes unless you do the practice. Again, this is a big discrepancy that happens with a lot of Westerners who get into yoga and whatnot and Hinduism, and they kind of treat it like a religion. Like, oh, okay, yes, Shiva, I worship him and all. And it's great, Ganesha, but it's not about the worship, it's about the practice. Nothing much changes if it's just worship, right? So Capricorn is that practice, to be by yourself, in solitude. You turn inward, not outward. Again, inward is Saturn. Feel that sound of silence, that simplicity. There's a great story that I'm going to tell about my guru Amma, and I tell this story to illustrate the Nakshatra of Shravana. I tell this story in a lot of instances because it's one of my favorite stories, and it was something that really took my love, not just my love of Amma, but my understanding of the concept of Shravana, a great way to illustrate my relationship even with Amma, my guru, because, I understand that a lot of Westerners, or even people that have been meditating for a long time like I had been, the concept of guru is very intimidating. Like, we don't really know how to approach it, right? And, I felt that way, right? And I had known Amma for 5-6 years by this time, 7-8 years maybe. It had been quite a while. And, you know, like when Amma hugs people, she's known as the hugging saint. And I never really, I mean, I always enjoyed the hug, but in some ways I didn't really know what to do with it. Because I'm like, okay, now Amma's hugging me. And like, the thing that I got from being in her presence was just being in her presence and just the gratitude and the beauty and the devotion. The hug just seemed kind of weird. Like, not because of anything she was doing, but because of me. I didn't really know what to think about it. I knew how I responded, which was just to kind of enjoy it. But here's the story. You know, Amma also, you know, the name means mother. Mother is a strange concept. Some of us, we have a kind of unusual relationship with mother. We're not really sure what mother, I don't know if I really want to relate to you like my mother. It's a little complicated. You know, again, even like a guru or whatever. But there's a story where Amma went to visit the home of these devotees, and it illustrates this nature of Shravana, which is sacred listening or hearing, like I said at the beginning. And Amma goes into this devotee's house, and the devotees had prepared this seat for Amma to sit on, and, you know, Amma was a very obviously respected guest in their house, the family, and they had 2 little kids. One of the girls, there were 2 little girls. One of the girls was about 10 or 11, 12 maybe. Old enough to kind of understand who Amma was, and to be mature enough to, you know, really love Amma and understand it. The other one was quite young. She was like 5. And she didn't really understand who Amma was, or what it was, why everybody loved Amma so much. And it upset her. She was kind of sad. So what happens is Amma goes over to their house, and she walks in the door, and again, the parents have this whole thing prepared for Amma, this place for Amma to sit, this kind of thing. And Amma just kind of ignored all of that and just kind of went into the kids' room. She just walked right into the room of the 2 little girls, right? And she sits down with the little girls, right? And the one little girl has like an Amma doll and has all these CDs, the one who's like 12 or 13. And she's got pictures of Amma everywhere. And she's like so happy. And Amma's like, you know, smiling with her and all. But her sister, her younger sister, was just kind of sitting there. She was just kind of looking around and kind of sort of pouting. And she wasn't sad or crying or anything, but she just wasn't very engaged. And Amma obviously noticed and just said, "What's wrong? You know, why are you upset? Is something wrong?" And the little girl says, very innocently, she says something to the effect of, "How come I don't love you like my sister?" And she was sort of confused and sad, like, how come I don't love you like my sister? Or something like that. And Amma just said, "But we're friends, right?" She looked at her and said that, like, "Oh, but we're friends, right?" And the little girl goes, "Yeah, we're friends," and jumps in Amma's lap and starts like laughing and, you know, totally happy. I use this for Shravana because it's listening and really hearing what's going on. You know, Amma didn't approach this little girl's question with some sophisticated answer or try to like talk to her. Amma is an enlightened being. So Amma's awareness penetrates all of the layers of ego. She knows exactly the soul of every being in this context. She knew what the little girl was saying, which is, the little girl's basically saying, well, she said it, actually. She said it very clearly. Why don't I love you as much? Or, like, she just didn't get it, right? And she felt bad because she wanted to, but she just didn't understand. And she looks up to her big sister, and her big sister loves Amma so much, and she's like, why don't I? What's going on? But to the little girl, her whole life is like her friends, like, but she loves her friends. So I was like, yeah, but we're friends, right? She's like, yeah, because that's what the girl understands about love. Like, her sister is her friend, and her friends are like everything. That's what she understands. When you think of Shravana and that divine listening, that sacred listening, it's that. And to me, it's such a sweet story because it's also this idea of friends, of friendship, and the beauty that comes with not being grabby and possessive and needy like we are with our lovers or even parents or other people where we've put so much charge into them, right? With our friends, and I mean our true friends, where we really love them, but we're not trying to possess them, we're not trying to get something. It's a very sweet, loving, and divine interaction. And the thing that taught me so much about my relationship with Amma is that's kind of how I kind of feel about her. I was like, yeah, that's what it is. We're friends. And it's weird because I always had dreams about Amma where she's in my dream and we're like friends. I mean, it's more than that. It's like, I know that she's who she is, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm kind of like geeking out. But I mean, her and I are just kind of hanging out like friends. I don't have these dreams or this relationship with her as this person in this body, as some like guru or mother or this. Again, I know it's not just that I know that's who she is. On a very cosmic level, it is completely that. She's an avatar, and I know this, but I mean, just as two beings in the body, that's how this body relates to that entity in this life. And so it really just was like, yeah, that's what it is, because when I get around her, I just laugh. I'm like, I'm not, there's nothing heavy, there's nothing like, I don't want anything. A lot of people have a strange relationship with gurus and with Amma. They're like, oh, Amma's mad at me, or I asked her this and I didn't get it, and she said I would do this, and like kind of in this sort of thing. I'm like, I don't have any of that. Like, it's nothing like that. When I get around her, I'm just laughing, sometimes kind of psychotically laughing. At least it used to be. But the point is that this sacred listening comes from being silent. Silence, stillness, simplicity, truth is the real key to Capricorn. And ultimately even this kind of innocence, because Saturn is, boy, it's a very rich energy, because it's where, look at old people. And when people are old and they've aged well, and I mean aged well, like they've lived, and they carry the scars, but they've returned to innocence. There's like a childlike beauty, childlike quality. We just had former president of the U.S. Jimmy Carter die he's like 100 years old, and you see he's lived. He wasn't in any way compromised. He was like, but you see he's like got the freshness of a child, like he's passed through the experience, and you see how well someone ages by the nature of their Saturn. Saturn is how we age, and whether it ages us, whether life wears on us and wears us out and wears us down. And when we age well, we've learned to let go of the bitterness and the frustration and the resentments and all of that stuff. And we've been able to return to a simplistic, a simple truth, sacred silence, and that simplistic nature. Like you see, these great divine beings, like you see Amma, she's incredibly simple. She has really nothing. She's got her white saris. She sits on the ground and she sits there like this person. There's no big deal. Like there's nothing big going on. But yet there's everything going on. This is really Saturn energy. You got to be really careful thinking certain things about astrology, particularly when you get to these difficult planets, malefics, Saturn's punishing you and all this stuff. It really bugs me, as you may know if you watch my work, that these planets should never be talked about. Like, these energies should never be turned on you and evoke fear in you. There is never anything to fear about any astrological indicator. And if it comes off, if someone is explaining it in a way that's scary or fearful, they don't know what they're doing. And I don't care what astrologers that offend. Some astrologers get offended. I say that some students do. No one should get offended. Anyone who's offended by that, go ahead and be offended and let me know. These are all divine energies, and again, you better know them because they're your energies. They're not even up there somewhere. If you haven't created a friendship with these energies, then wherever you're stuck or afraid or judging, and it happens all the time, I know in my comments all the time, oh, this one's doing that to me and blah, and I know why people say it, because they hear astrologers teach it that way and say it that way, and it's not that way. So anyway, I don't want to go off too much on all that stuff. I didn't plan on that, but this has gotten longer than I wanted. But I love talking about these things. I love talking about Saturn, these new moons, these cycles. And again, I encourage people, if you haven't gotten this ebook, to get it. It will really break down Saturn in ways that you'll really understand a lot better too. Again, I even have a video just what is Saturn, evolutionary processes, these qualities, how to really work with that energy creatively. It's a very beautiful energy in you. Again, if you want to know how this new moon in Capricorn will affect you for the next 30 days, you can go ahead and join. You can join at that examiner level, get you that forecast. Visionary also gets you the Vedic forecast, and then the Oracle gives you all of the forecasts. So anyway, I hope this was helpful, and you have a great new moon cycle, new moon in Capricorn cycle. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel.